Hi everyone, welcome to the Violet May Handmade Podcast episode 2. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Samantha, and we're a mother and daughter who love all things crafty.
We'll start off by showing some of our projects, both what's on our hooks and some finished objects. So to start off with, I have one project that is finished and Mum has got the same project in whip form. So this is it here. So this is the single skein necklet, which is a pattern by Nina of Nancy Said. So it's a 4-ply pattern and I used Cascade Heritage Waves in the colourway Nightshade. Some very pretty details in this pattern. For example, along the edge, the bottom of both, there is a edging, so it looks to me like a flower. And then instead of a regular scarf, which would be long and wrap all the way around, it has this band around it to keep it on. So it's designed to be just crocheted as a strip and then you sew it together as well as to the shawl. But instead I just joined it onto the actual scarf and slip stitched it down. So I'm really thrilled with that. I really like it.
So my single skein necklet is a work in progress. I hadn't started it last time we podcast. So this is the yarn that I'm using. It's a beautiful single skein of yarn in hot pink and pale blue. It's got a little bit of greeny in it and it is just so pretty. So this is my single skein necklet here. And I think it's just looking so pretty. Pastel and all the colours together just look amazing. So I'm enjoying working on that and I'm really looking forward to finishing it.
I think it's going to go with quite a lot of your wardrobe too.
I agree. I do have a lot of pinks and blues in my wardrobe, so I think it'll be perfect.
So the next work in progress that we have is one that we both have. So this is from Inside Crochet issue 152. And it's this cover pattern here, this shawl. So it's a lovely big shawl in 4-ply. And I think that the idea of it is you use your 4-ply scraps.
So we didn't think we actually had a lot of 4-ply yarn and it was probably not going to be a project we could do now. But when we went to our stash, we discovered that we did have a lot more than we thought we did. So we grabbed all of the yarn that we thought we'd use for the project and divided it in half so we could share the yarn. And because we've used the colours differently in different spots, it actually is amazing how totally different they actually are.
You wouldn't really think that they were all using the same yarn. Like, they don't look matching at all.
No. So you can show yours first if you like.
So this is mine here. I'll get closer.
So it's just looking so pretty. It actually looks nothing like the pattern though.
Not really. I think that the pattern designer did a lot more colour changes, like sort of like a couple of rows, whereas we had some sort of bigger scraps, like for example from here to here is all the one yarn there.
So even though we haven't done as many colour changes, we actually have a lot of ends, so
yeah,
not so keen on that aspect of
the
project. So this is mine.
I love yours. I think it just looks beautiful. I think it's a lot more pastel than mine. Mine's got some stronger colours in it.
So really enjoying working on that, and it's quite simple to do if you remember to do the chain, which I quite frequently forget to do the chain. I have to unpick it, but that's just me.
My next couple of projects are both in the same yarn, so I finished one and I'm working on the other. So I had this 8-ply 100% wool yarn in a chestnut brown colourway. I just think it's a gorgeous colour. And so I made up a pair of Elements gloves, which is a pattern by Nina of Nancy Said. So it's just way too hot here today to put these on. So everything that we mentioned, everything that we finished, we'll try and put a picture in of. But I love these because they're quite long, and then this cuff, you can actually turn that up if you want the cuff to have a different look to it. So I had 2 100-gram balls of that, so I made these and I still had quite a bit left over. So I went on to start an Elements hat, which is the matching hat pattern to those gloves. So I'm just working on the rib here. I love crocheted ribbing. I think it's really, really nice. And so I have worked the number of rows suggested in the pattern, but it's just fitting a little bit too snugly for my liking on my head, so I'm just going to continue on and do a few more rows just so it's a slightly looser fit, which is what I prefer. So I'm really liking how that's turning out.
So the gloves I was working on last time, the gelato gloves, I've now finished them. So these are the finished gloves here. So I'm absolutely thrilled with the way they've turned out. So we've got the purple up the top and then just the contrast down there, and then I've put the little flower on and a little diamante in the middle, which I think just looks so cute.
It does, I love that.
Yeah, so I'm really, really pleased with those. So we do projects that we both do, individual projects, but we also do quite a few things that we make together, which actually works quite well because if one of us runs into a problem, we can help the other one. So we find it works quite well.
It does.
Yeah.
So our next matching project is a pair of Sweetheart socks, which is a pattern by Vicky Brown.
So this is a pair of crocheted socks. I haven't made socks of any description before. Caitlin has made both knitted and crocheted socks. So this is the Cascade prints, and then I'm going to use the plum as a contrast. So with the pattern, they do a contrasting cuff and heel and toe, but I decided that I would just use the yarn as the cuff because I thought it might be a bit much having the plum up the top of the sock. So that's the rib so far that I've done. I had made a lot more progress. I'd actually started crocheting the sock, but then I discovered that they were too small, so I've had to pull it back and start again. So
yes. So I did have mine started. I'd started my ribbed cuff, but so my main yarn is this yarn. It's a self-striping yarn from Fiddlesticks, which has been discontinued now.
Which is so pretty.
It is. It's really lovely. And I was not going to use this for the ribbed cuff because I just felt like because it is a self-striping yarn and the cuff is worked horizontally and then the leg is worked vertically, I just thought that it would interrupt the straps too much, so I decided to do a contrast. So I started off my cuff with this navy yarn, and I was really sort of struggling because it's done in a very small hook. It's a 3mm hook, and it's done in the back loop, and I was just not finding it enjoyable. So when I took a closer look at the yarn, actually in there, I don't know whether you'll be able to see, but like underneath in there is actually some plum in there. So I decided to use the same yarn as Mum is using for her contrast and use the plum. So I think that they're actually going to look really, really nice together. And I think that's going to make it a lot easier for me to work on them. So just on the subject of socks, I have a half finished object. So this is a knitted sock. There. So whenever I make knitted socks, I use the Sockmatician's Toe Up sock recipe, and I use 72 stitches. So the contrast here is Hobby Yarn Mayflower 1 class in just the black colorway, and they've discontinued that now. And as well as the main yarn here, that was a Hobby Atlas Happy Feet, I think, in the colorway Rose Garden. They've also discontinued that, unfortunately. It's really lovely yarn. So it uses a slip stitch heel flap, which I really like the slip stitch heel flap. I like that it's quite a bit thicker than the rest of the sock, and I also just like the texture that it gives. When I used to do these socks, I used to do a contrast one, but Mum is my main end sewer. And we were finding that I'm not sure whether this was just the way that I had joined it or something, but at the point where the heel flap like joins to the rest of the sock, we were getting little holes that you had to sew up when you were sewing in the ends. So that's what I do with them now, and I quite like the look of the little stripes along the heel flap. I think it looks alright.
I think it's pretty.
Yeah. So that's a half finished object. And then our next project is another one that we're working on together, and this was a plan that we mentioned last podcast. So this is the Sea Maiden shawl, which is another pattern by Nina of Nancy Said. And we're both using the same yarn in different colours. So So it's the Lion brand Summer Nights yarn, and I have the colorway Stargazing.
And mine was the Wildflower.
Yes.
So it's a gorgeous yarn, and it's got a metallic thread in it, which is really, really pretty. So mine's got a silver one and Caitlin's has got a gold one.
Yes.
And you use a 3.5mm hook.
With lace weight yarn.
Yeah, with lace weight. It's a lace weight yarn. Yeah. So this is mine.
I just love the colours in yours. I think the coral is beautiful.
It is. It's so. I'm just really enjoying crocheting it, and as the different colours come up, it's just really, really pretty. I love it.
So mine is quite different, obviously, and I really like the way that's looking. I think that it will actually be a really nice addition to my wardrobe. I know that I've got a couple of tops that'll go really nicely with this. So mine is looking a little bigger because I have tied looser tension, but we have done exactly the same amount of rows.
Yes, mine is a lot smaller.
So that's another whip. And your next whip is your troublesome whip.
Yeah. Last time I mentioned I was making a crocheted cardigan for my mum for her birthday. And I only had the sleeves to go. However, I still have not finished the cardigan because I have had a lot of trouble with the sleeves. I don't know whether it's me or I just do not know whether I have done 2 sleeves and had to unpick both of them because one was skin tight and the other one was just massive, yes. So Caitlin has taken over doing the sleeves because I've just had enough, really. It's just starting to frustrate me because I had actually made this cardigan before Christmas and the size was too large and I had to unpick the whole thing. So this is the second time I've made this cardigan, so I am getting a little tired of it by this. So this is actually the first crocheted garment that I've made, but I don't like the way the sleeve is finished.
I'll just try and show you the join. I don't know whether the camera will pick it up, but... So this is the join along here. I'm not sure whether you can see like how it joins together. I can see it. Yeah.
You join with a slip stitch and I really do not like that. I don't think it gives a very nice finish. If I were to make another one of these cardigans, I think I would try actually crocheting it flat and then seaming it because I just really do not like the look of the slip stitch.
Yeah.
But that's a personal opinion, that's just me, but I just don't like it. I think it looks messy.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, it looks a little messy.
So the progress that Caitlin's made is one sleeve which is fully finished and fits perfectly, and she's probably almost halfway through the second sleeve, so it will be finished for my mum's birthday, thankfully.
So that's all of the crochet whips we have, but I have a couple of knitted sweaters on the go. So one of these you've seen and one of these you haven't. So my first garment that I've got on the needles is from the Peyton's Bluebell 5-ply Classic Elegance book. It's book 1224, and as I showed last time, it's the vintage short collar cardigan that I'm making. So the yarn that I'm using for this is Cascade Aegean Tweed in a mid-grey colour. So that's a sport weight?
Yeah, 5-ply.
Yes. So I have made what I think with knitting. There's quite a lot of progress since last time. So this marker here is showing where I was last time. So I've worked all the way from there, all the way up to here in this texture pattern. And I'm about 2 centimeters away from where you start doing the back shoulder shaping.
But you haven't probably worked on it in over a week because she started a new project.
Using the same needles, so
yes,
I haven't been able to
that's
work
had
with
a lot more love.
Yes. So I'm really enjoying this and I can't wait to wear it in winter. I think it's just going to be a great, staple.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
So my next knitted project has possibly been getting a little more attention. This project is the Rosa Jumper, which is a pattern by Along Avec Anna. So this uses 2 yarns held together, a 4-ply and then a lace weight mohair. So this is the 4-ply that I'm using. It's Bendigo Wool Mills Luxury 4-ply, which is 100% wool in the colorway Truffle. and I think that may have been a limited edition color. I'm not sure whether they actually have it anymore. And then I'm not using a mohair. I'm using it's from Spotlight, and they don't have it anymore. It's called FOMO.
Yeah.
So it's a acrylic and polyester blend, but it gives the same effect.
Hard to see the colour there, isn't it? But
yes, it's sort of a minky colour.
yeah.
So I started this about a week and a half ago, and I've made quite a lot of progress on it. So
A huge amount of progress, I think.
So it's a V-neck one, so it's got the V-neck. It's got this lovely lace detail down the raglan. So as you can see, I've split it for the sleeves. And then I've got, I don't know, a good 25 centimeters or something after the split. So I've tried it on, and it's fitting quite nicely, I think. And I haven't got too much to go on the body, because you do about 2 inches of ribbing. And so I haven't got like a huge amount left to go, and then of course I've got the sleeves to do. And then you finish off this V-neck edge, because as you can see it's rolling a little bit. You finish that off with an I-cord, which I've never actually done that before, so that could be interesting. Next, I would just like to talk to you about a garment that I showed last video. And so this is my goldenrod sweater, which is a pattern by 11 Handmade. And I have actually made this before in this purple. And I was really, really happy with this sweater. It fitted really nicely. Like, it had ease in it, but it was not, you know, huge. So I used exactly the same hook and obviously a slightly different yarn, but I was really excited about it, and I thought it was going really well. But then I tried it on, and it is just huge. Like, there's just so much like room in the back. Like, there's probably like 10 inches. It doesn't need to be there. Like, it's just huge. And I would never wear it, so I'm going to unpick it and probably not make it again. But I just wanted to know whether any of you guys have ever had that problem, because I also, quite a while ago, I was working on this sweater here, which is a colorwork sweater. It's a pattern by the Velvet Acorn, which is Heidi May. And I was loving this, and I got past the sleeves, and I was really far into the body, and then I tried it on and had exactly the same problem. There was just heaps of room in like the back area, and I just, you know, want any tips that I can get.
Yeah, does anyone else have problems with garments?
Yeah.
So we haven't made that many, but the ones we have made
have
been troublesome. Yeah.
So I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yes, well, I started to make a top for Caitlin for Christmas, but it was worked in 2 pieces, and I worked the front and then I went to work the back. But as I had done it over a period of, I don't know, a month or so, I suppose, or maybe a bit longer, when I went to do the back, my tension had obviously changed, and they were different. They weren't going to match up.
Yeah.
So I have unpicked it, and I thought that next time I would do 2 rows of the front and 2 rows of the back to try and keep the tension more even. So, you know, does anyone else have these dramas? Even though it is still like summer here, we will be heading into winter soon. So we've begun to think of what other projects we might like to get done in time for winter. The project that I thought I'd like to make is the Bobbly Beauty Shawl. So that's this one here, which I just fell in love with because I cannot resist anything that has a bobble in it.
So this yarn is called Calypso, and it's, as we said, an 8-ply, so it's 60% wool, 40% cotton, and it's in the colourway Pressed Lavender. And it's a really interesting yarn. It's sort of quite textured.
It is,
There's like slub bits in it.
Yes, so. Very interesting, which I think will look really good in this.
I agree. I think it'll look really lovely.
Scarf.
So my first plan is to make one of these shawls up here. So this is called the Amazing Grace Angel Wing Shawl, which is a pattern by Beatrice Ryan Designs.
So the pattern that Caitlin's going to use is one that I've made twice before, and it is my absolute all-time favourite thing I've ever made. It is so pretty, and it just looks so beautiful in the winter with my clothing. The first one I used a cotton cake, and then the second one I made using wool. Well, as the sock blend wool, but it was just, both of them were really lovely to work on, and such a pretty project when they're finished.
Definitely. So I'm going to make my version out of a Bendigo Wool & Mills multicolored 4-ply sock yarn. So it was a 70% wool, 30% nylon, and this is the colorway Pastel Dreams. So it's in a bit of a messy ball because this is the yarn that I used for that colourwork sweater that I showed you. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's just going to be a really nice piece because the second shawl that Mum made was actually for me, and it was in this exact yarn, just in a different colourway, and I just love it. I love wearing it, so I know that it's going to turn out beautifully.
So soft and drapey.
It is. Yeah. It's really lovely. So what's your next plan?
So my next plan is a cardigan. However, after my last fiasco with my cardigan, I didn't know whether I want to still continue, but no.
However, this is a vintage pattern, so it will be all worked flat and then you'll seam it together, so you won't have the sleeve problem.
Yeah, I think I'll actually like this better because I really do not like the modern way of making sweaters. I don't mind that you have to sew them together, and I think it probably gives, in some ways, a nicer finish. So this is the yarn that I'm going to use. Once again, Bendigo Wool & Mills, and it's 100% wool, and the colourway is Classic Ensign. So I probably won't be starting that immediately because I need a bit of a break after my last cardigan.
But it's definitely something on your radar.
Yeah, it is. I've been admiring it, but it won't be ready for this winter, so there's no real rush to start it.
So my last plan is from this book here. It's the Delicious Crochet Shawls book, which is a book by Lisa Cook. So the pattern that I really want to make is one that I've been looking at ever since I got this book. It's called the Gooseberry Fool. So it's a shawl type thing, but I call it a cross between a shawl and a cowl because it looks like a shawl in the front, but it's joined at the back so that, you know, like it's like a cowl. You just put it on over your head. And I just have been wanting to make this forever. And I have this yarn.
I think they're really good, those, because they don't fall off and you don't have to adjust them so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have made one like that before. It was called the Sassy Cowl, and we'll put in a picture of that so that you can see what they're like. And the yarn that I'm going to use is a hobby yarn. I think it was called Tweed Delight. So it's a 10-ply or worsted weight. And it's just in this sort of like natural oatmeal-y colour. And I love these sort of colours. And this is actually a leftover that I had from making a Cloud 9 cardigan, which is the same pattern that Mum's making. The blue one. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'd like to get a start on that soon after I've finished a couple of things.
So that's all the crochet and knitting, and next we'll do some sewing projects.
So we both have the same first finished object, which is actually what we're wearing. So this is the Simplicity 8602 pattern, which is this one here. I'll just quickly show you the line drawings. So that's them there. So I made the shorter version, which doesn't have a slit in the side, and you made the longer one, which has a slit.
Slit in the side, yes.
But we had to shorten the longer one quite a lot. We based the sleeves on view C, which is the one that the model is wearing, but we didn't do the ruffles. We just did a plain little short sleeve. So we used this 100% cotton fabric, which we bought from Spotlight, and it's just got these little triangles on it. I really like it. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's just got a little keyhole in the back with a button.
So that's your only sewing finished object?
Yes. Yes, and I haven't had a lot of time for sewing.
Yes, we've been doing a lot of crochet. Yeah. So the next thing that I finished is from this book, which is Sewing Your Perfect Capsule Wardrobe book. So the project that I made is the skirt, which was one of my plans from last time. So I was actually going to make the flared mini skirt, but instead I decided to make the normal skirt version, but just shorten it a bit. So
why was that?
Well, because I wanted a sort of more of a mini skirt, but I decided not to do the flaring because I have quite a few skirts in my wardrobe that are very similar to this style, and I just thought it'd be nice to have, you know, a sort of, it's not really short, it's like just above my knee, and so that's what I made. So it's the Modern Florals on Navy from East Coast Fabrics, which they don't actually have anymore, and then I did a contrasting facing on the inside, which is like a green sort of like, I don't know, pentagon print. So the way that you put this zip at the back in, it's just a regular zipper, but the way that you put it in, it's really interesting, and I really enjoyed doing it. I'm thinking that I'm going to incorporate that style of putting the zipper in into other things that I make. I think that it gives a really neat finish. So that's all that we have finished, but we have a couple of plans.
I love making project bags, and we had a little bit of fabric left over from our top, so I thought I'd make a little project bag out of this fabric and a contrasting fabric as well.
I think that's going to be gorgeous. Are you going to do a zippered one or a drawstring?
I haven't decided yet. I may make a zippered one because I do have quite a few drawstring and not many zippered ones.
Yeah. So I just have a couple of sewing plans, and they're both from this book here, which is the Tilly and the Button stretch book. So my first plan is the Freya dress, which is from the Freya top, but you just can make it into a dress. And I'll just show you the line drawing. So it's that one there, the dress version. And I'm going to do it with the mock neck, which is shown in the line drawings. So I'm going to use this fabric here, which is from Spotlight. So it's a ponte. So it's quite a heavyweight knit fabric, and it has got a reasonable amount of stretch to it, and I think that's going to look really, really nice as the dress. And I've got quite a bit of this, so I may even have enough to make a little skirt out of it as well. And then my second project that I'd like to make from this book is from this pattern. So this is the Stella pattern, and I only want to make the joggers. I don't want to make the hoodie. So just those pants there. Which I like those because they look like they're fairly slim fitting in the leg, which is what I prefer to wear. So the fabric that I have for this is, Mum showed hers in the last podcast, and mine is the same fabric, just in this green colour. I believe it was called Lagoon. So I think that's just going to make a really snuggly pair of track pants because, you know, it's got the fleecy back, and it's not hugely thick, but it's got a really nice weight to it, I think, for winter. And I used to wear a lot of track pants, and I grew out of them, so I'm looking forward to having another pair. So that's all from us today, and we hope you enjoyed watching.
Until next time, happy crafting. So I bought this yarn from Bendigo. It was a limited edition yarn, and okay. So okay, I bought this yarn from Bendigo Woolen Mills. It was a woolen